is also running out. Good morning. Welcome.
Yes, the month is gradually running out,
Yeah.
just like that. But then you can still do something with the remaining part of the year. Yes, talking about the newspapers headlines, we begin this morning with the Vanguard. On the Vanguard this morning, we've got this. Yes, you tied security agents.
Is leading with this one in the front page for today. It says
Insurance sector shakeup likely over imminent recapitalization. details of that on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And that'll be from the Nation.
Right, from the Nation newspaper, let's check the Guardian. The Guardian newspaper for today. In the front page, you find Crime and Security Report 2024. Nigerians pay 2.2 trillion ransom in 51.9 million crime cases. Result to self-help. That's in the front page of the Guardian newspaper. You also find the breakdown of what the reality is for some in terms of the Crime and Security Report 2024. 2.2 trillion estimated ransom was paid between May 2023 to April 2024. An estimated 51.8 crime incidents, million crime incidents were reported within the reference period, and only 36.3% of robbery victims report cases to police. The cause of lack of confidence in law enforcement and the belief that police intervention would not result in meaningful action. We're hoping that the police will also react to that and, of course, look in terms of the confidence and, of course, the trust that the people really have in them. You'll find more on the breakdown of the Crime and Security Report 2024, which is in the front page of the Guardian newspaper for this morning. Other headlines in the Guardian newspaper front page: Tinubu's wife financial inclusions hit 64%. Edo Assembly suspends 18 council chairmen. PDP peaks. That's in the Guardian newspaper. And of course, as we wrap up the Guardian newspaper for this morning, uncertainty trails 20 billion consumer auto finance scheme. Imo PDP flays Uzodinma over failure to secure promised foreign jobs for youths. INEC obeys Supreme Court judgment, restores Ezel Kongwa as APGA chairman. You find more in the Guardian newspaper for today. And there's also an interesting one just at the bottom strip of the front page of the Guardian newspaper. How ICPC stopped diversion of 5.8 billion naira by MDAs, recovered 29.7 billion naira assets. Find more on that in the Guardian for today.
All right, let's check the Daily Trust. On the Daily Trust this morning, we have this one: 614,937 Nigerians killed, 2.2 million abducted in 1 year. That's according to National Bureau of Statistics. Says kidnappers raked in 2. Presidency, military, police silent. What federal government should do, according to security experts? I think you want to know what federal government is supposed to do. Check page 4 of the Daily Trust for detail on the story. Senate wants foreign currencies use banned in Nigeria. We find details of that on page 1 of the Daily Trust this morning. Probe non-delivery of tractors, harvesters in $754.2 million, 141.6 billion naira deal. You find details of this on page 7 of the Daily Trust of this morning. And the Daily Trust also has some graphic representation of the cases of murder, abduction, and all of that. You know, says moderate ones that happened in rural areas, urban areas. Okay, for rural areas, for instance, we have 335,827 persons, are murdered in rural areas, and in urban areas we have 279,110 persons from the urban areas. The graph is there for you to see on the front page of the Daily Trust, and well picturized there. And before we leave the Daily Trust, we also have the stories there. Jigawa uncovers 6,348 ghost workers receiving 3.7 billion naira. You find details of that on page 8 of the Daily Trust. CCT, don't undermine court process, lawyers tell Tinubu. And details of this on page 4 of the Daily Trust this morning. And that will be all from the Daily Trust.
All right, from the Daily Trust newspaper, let's check.
Zodima help look back Naduze orders for the award, says athletes were the nation's ambassadors. First Lady shares one sporting
Let's do
story.
sports quickly. From the Punch, success for Nigerian internationals.
all from the newspaper's headlines for this morning. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be back on the discussion segment for the show. Don't go away. still with us on AM today. As we promised, when we return from that break, we'll be taking our discussion for the day. And what we're looking at this moment is the Nigerian tertiary institutions. Yes, the state of the the Nigerian tertiary institutions are bedeviled by several issues, that from inadequate financing to deteriorated infrastructure, brain drain, insecurity challenge, and what have you. So to look at this with us this morning, we've got an erudite scholar in the house, at the man at the helms of affairs of the university, the understate University of Medical Sciences. Yes, that's UNIMED. We've got Professor Rishabh Fatusi in the house. It's nice to have you join us, sir.
Good morning, good to be here. Thank you.
Yes, let's start with UNIMED, for instance. Yes, you've been at the helms of affairs in the school for a number of years, and in fact at the toddling stage of the school. But we wonder, will this school survive? Because it came at a time of change of government and all of that. How were you able to scale through?
So thank you very much. UNIMED, the University of Medical Sciences, is 10 years now. I have been privileged to be in the leadership for 4 years, 9 months. So about 3 months to live. And like you said, UNIMED came towards the end of Governor Mimiko's era. And to went through that. I think one of the first things that is important to note is the consistency and commitment of the government. So one of the challenges we see in Nigeria is policy somersault. The governor comes, he starts something good, the next governor comes, he thinks, oh, no, it's not my party, it's not. And so kudos to the governors of the state, because they found that this is a great dream, and it's not about the party, it's not about the individual, it's about the people and the benefit. So that for me is one of the lessons that I think we must take forward about strengthening educational infrastructure. In fact, about strengthening the Nigerian development system as a whole. You know, we are Nigerians for specialized medical and sciences university. We pride ourselves in our innovation, our sense of innovation, and our approach in terms of entrepreneurship. You know, there are two major things. When you take a look at the Nigerian sector, sometimes we, in the educational sector, sometimes we become so inflexible that we want to continue to do what everybody is doing. As such, we are not distinct, we are not competitive. One of the things we set out to be was to be competitive, was to be distinct, so that we can have a niche for ourselves and a name. To give you an example, 5 years ago, or even up to now, there's only one faculty of medical rehabilitation anywhere in West Africa, and that's by UNIMED. Because we took a look at the landscape and we found a lot of people are doing medicine. We need medicine, we need nurse, and we are doing all of those, by the way. In fact, we have the largest number of medical courses in this country today. We have, when I came in, there were 12 courses. Today we have 40 undergraduate courses. We have 59 postgraduate courses, including 23 PhD programs. So we look at that spectrum and landscape. We found that medical rehabilitation had not been given enough attention. For example, there was no school training anybody in audiology. There was no school training people in speech therapy. There was no school talking about occupational therapy. We felt that these are areas that are increasingly necessary. I'm involved in a project with a team in Ife dealing with children with disability. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a team came in from UK with speech therapists, occupational therapy, because Nigerians have not been trained. So we rushed to those areas. We developed a faculty of medical rehabilitation.
So where do you have the manpower to run it? For instance, the lecturers and the instructors needed?
So those are some of the challenges when you start in the courses. One of the things we did, we also started prosthetic orthotics. One of the things we did is we knew there are a couple of experts in Nigeria, very few, trainable. We went to look for them. In fact, to tell you the story about our head of prosthetic orthotics, he had headed the Federal College of Orthopedics Technology. That's the only one training prosthetic orthotics in Nigeria for the last 20, 30 years at diploma level. The man had retired. I personally went to his house to beg him, sir, you can't retire. You need to start this program at graduate level. So that's the way we've done that. Sometimes we have also been lucky to find Nigerians abroad.
Okay.
So we take Nigerians abroad to do adjunct lecturer for. So, but we know that once we start that way and we produce the first set, the second set, then we are beginning to. That's part of our strategies.
Okay, so that means the training of your own students too, you're training them with the hope that some of them will return to handle things at the institutions. So mentioning some of the courses you run at the school, there's one particular one talking about natural medicine, or is it alternative medicine?
Alternative and complementary
medicine. Yes. That has to do with the regular herbalist or,
all right.
or what have you?
So one of our greatest passion, and my passion, is about African herbal medicine. Now, that is different from the traditional in a way. See, when you come to traditional, there are all kind of things, divination, things you don't understand. But herbs are scientifically, there are things that can be scientifically treated. So, to give you an example, the malaria treatment we use today, how did we know it? When we have chloroquine resistant, the Chinese went back to their herbs and found out what were they using. The woman who got the Nobel Prize for discovering it, it's not even a doctor, she didn't have a PhD, but she got the Nobel Prize. I think that God has blessed Africa with so much herb that we should have been the leading producers of drugs for the world. And that's why we are passionate that we must take our herbs, understand the active components, see how we can process them to drugs. So we have a center for drug discovery and herbal medicine. That is part of that dream to see if we can change the narrative when it comes to Nigeria and drug development.
All right, Prof. I'm taking a look at your journey right from Ife, coming down to Ondo State here to really give back to your people, indeed. And you came at a time where the world faced a serious challenge. It was during that COVID-19 period where you got appointed by the government of Ondo State back in 2020. And I'm imagining you're coming to handle a baby that is still trying to get its feet, trying to break new grounds, and you have another health challenge on the side, also coming into the mix. How did you cope with all of this at the starting stage? I'm glad
you recollected that very well. You know, that between Ife and here, there was actually a break. When I left Ife, I left for the US. I started working in the US. And I thought I was going to be there for a few years. That was when I got the appointment. And I came here to visit. And I couldn't go back immediately because of COVID-19. and so, one of the first challenges for me, which was a great opportunity for us then, was COVID-19. Schools were closing down. And we were like, wow, this is a great opportunity to show innovation, to show proactiveness. The first thing we did in Unimed was to move swiftly to online classes. Even though we were just 5 years, 6 months there. We moved to online. And what did we do? People told me, oh, it can't be done. Oh, students don't have money for data. And I'm like, what? Students have money for data to watch video and to talk to their girlfriend. Please leave me out of that. I said, my job is to provide quality education. So we started training for all our teachers, online classes, for our teachers to know how to develop online materials. We started doing training for our students. How do you access these learning tools and learning the learning system, learning management system. And that for us was a big plus because in 10 years we have never lost an academic session. None. All these crises, none. So even in the middle of COVID-19, for us was an opportunity to show what can be done by just being proactive and thinking without the box. And shortly after that, when the late Commissioner for Health also passed on, I was appointed as the chairman of Ondo State COVID-19. Yeah. So for us, it was also a great opportunity because we then leap forward with that to develop our center for molecular biology. The laboratory that costs over 200 million. And we can test for COVID-19. At that point in time, Ondo State didn't have anywhere to test for COVID-19 outside going to FMC in Edo. We said we developed a lab. We developed a new center. So it was a challenge, but it was an exciting challenge for us to grapple with.
So how has that challenge positioned Unimed for the future, positioned you for all of the grounds you've had to break in the years after?
So, one of the things that differentiates leadership and followership is about the power of vision. And one of the things that followers look for, once they understand where you're going and they sure you are committed to it. Nigerians are not very difficult people. They will give you support. So one of the things we did with that short opportunity was that we showed that look, we had the goal, we had the plan, we had an intention, we had a commitment. And that became the platform. Where people can say, okay. So when we came back and said, we did this, we want to do this is new in Nigeria. Like, okay, we could do COVID-19, I mean we could do online, okay, so we can do it. And so for us, that became it's a great opportunity. It's like a mindset change. That if you set our mind, we can do it. And so our DNA became innovation, opportunities, entrepreneurship. And that's what we have done all the years.
At the start of the conversation, I remember Shade read off a lot of problems confronting the Nigerian tertiary education, the issue of poor infrastructure, inadequate funding on the side, and a host of others. You find strikes happening, the conversation around curriculum even getting up to what it should be at this time. Perhaps we start from the state of infrastructure. Even larger tertiary institutions across Nigeria, these are days where you find a lot of students in a lecture theater that's not spacious, not in a sense not conducive for learning.
Yeah.
What's UNIMED doing in that regard, and what are the cues that other institutions also need to start looking for? Perhaps also government could start taking a look at.
Thank you. So when I was a younger lecturer, when I was a student, maybe early in my career, I went to Ife. I've always thought the great universities about great building, until I went outside the country. And then I begin to see that look, it's not the size of the structure, it's what you do there. And I think whatever. John Hopkins University, School of Public Health, number 1 School of Public Health, is one building, started in 1916. So I thought that look, it's not all about getting all the spaces, but how you manage what you get. So to come back to your question, in UNIMED we don't have all the big infrastructure, but you know our GS classes, general education. We have a radio station in UNIMED. We have a television station in UNIMED. We do our GS on radio.
Interesting.
Where will the students receive the lecture while you're on radio?
Because it's GS.
Okay.
You tune into the station. So we don't need to cram 2,000 students into one hall. There are courses that we might need to do that, but there are very few. Maybe at a medical university, there is no class that is bigger than 200 in medicine. That's the largest one. In dentistry, we have only like 30 people approved. So what you then do for the big classes to ask yourself, do you do these classes in series? Which one can you run by radio? So those small innovations can make a real difference. Our library is not that huge, but you can access our library for a student, and we have an app. You can access it from your house. So bringing in innovation, digital technology can change the narratives, so that you don't just keep on trying to expand facilities when they are not the issue. So that but you have a box of money. You have to tell yourself, what do you do with it? So for me, for example, it will not be a space, maybe is there a critical equipment? If the Malay classes are mostly the theoretical ones, the English, how to speak English, those ones, let's do on the radio.
Okay. So are you by any means telling us that probably it's the lack of innovation that is making university bodies in Nigeria, for instance, ASU and the like, saying we do not have enough infrastructure? Are you saying that's why they're crying for?
There are two things.
Maybe if they're more innovative.
No, if I'm in a school where I'm running class of 1,005, the narrative may be different. But my second point is this: with innovation and digital technology, we can change things significantly. Because you see, if you keep on talking about building, at a point in time you have to ask yourself, where does the balance come? Because you won't have all the money. So what is your target? What is your goal? How do you get there? It's not about following the beaten path. It's about thinking beyond the box and see what is the critical element that can make to change this. I'll give one more example. See, when I was a medical student, you go to physiology, you do all kind of miss this, that. Today, there's a laboratory, online laboratory material, for example. It's expensive, But when you buy it, you don't have much spaces. And all the experiments, your student can do it and have the same experiment. And we invested in something like that for physiology, for biochemistry. So those kind of approaches can make us overcome many of the challenges. But that does not mean we don't still need money. Funding is a big issue, very big issue in Nigerian universities, and something we need to deal with in a very realistic way. We are not realistic about it at all.
We're missing the reality.
All right, so let me take you back to my journey in Unimed. When I got to Unimed, Unimed we were only 5 months around when I got it, and I look at the school fees, I look at the number of students, I look at, and it was clear we are going to die. The school was going to die. So our idea was, okay, so what do? We have to reprice. We have to do our analysis and say, can we sustain this school on the amount of money that government is giving us, and students are paying. Somebody must pay. It can't be me. If the government is not paying, the parents must pay. So we increased school fees significantly.
120%. I'm looking at the figure now. In terms of significance, let's just put it as a fact. 120% increment in school fees. In the second year of your coming on board. Let's go ahead.
I remember.
So, for instance, our prof is usually an advocate of paying, as in paying hugely for education in Nigeria. You believe that parents have to pay. But let's not forget that most people in Nigeria
are poor.
Yes.
I'll deal with that.
Okay.
You see, incidentally, I come from a poor family. My father was a reverend father, was a vicar. I mean, my mother was a primary school teacher. So I didn't come from a rich family. So, but see, there's a point we are missing. The point we are missing is this: we think that because they are poor people, the rich people should not pay. That's the point we are missing. My daughter went to school in Ife. I can pay. My husband and I can pay. But because you have this socialist approach, maybe it's like, I don't even know how much my daughter pays, because I don't even give her money to pay school fees. She pays from her pocket money. But why don't you let those who can pay, and then use that money to support those who cannot pay? Because that's the way the system operates everywhere in the world. Look, what we are having in federal universities today is because there's no money. If we had waited for government money, Unimed would have died. Because we are talking about medical education. Teachers are scarce. They can't pay them for 5 months, 6 months. Nobody will be there to teach. So I believe strongly that we must let people pay, but we must also be equity oriented to support those who cannot pay by providing scholarship and support. Can I say this to you? What most Nigerians forget? Nigerian educational system, tertiary, does not start with free school fees. No. Communities supported their children to go to school. They give scholarships. It was in the days of the oil boom that the military government said no more school fees. So that was not the way it started. No. And we need to go back to how we started.
But how we started then, we had few people going for higher education.
Excuse me.
Maybe in a whole town you could have like 1 or 2. So the community, yes,
the community will gather to even celebrate
them and all of that.
But
we can't go back to that era.
No, what I mean, the era I mean is this: why are the facilities deteriorating? Because there's no money to maintain them. That's just the basic fact. And like I always tell people, if the facilities are poor and you are not paying school fees, the poor is the one that will suffer, not the rich. No, maybe I should expand that further. If you go to school, you went to read computer science in the school, I never saw a computer. And then you came out of school, you say you are a graduate. You graduate what? Nobody will get you employed because you don't have the skills. This is part of the problem they're having. But you know what? Because we went to the federal school, they didn't pay. You know, the rich man will send the child to Harvard after that one. He will come out that one. So the poor child that went to a school that has poor facilities, you think you are helping him. No, you are not helping him. You are wasting his life. So for me, let's say, what can we do to help the poor to go to school? One of them, loan. And I'm glad that fund is there. So every child should be able to get money, pay school fees, and let the school develop their capacity and go. In Unimed, in the last 5 years, we've added almost like 30 billion. About half of that came from our internal generated revenue.
Interesting.
From the school fees or other ventures?
Mostly school fees. Mostly school fees. There are a few other ventures, but mostly school fees. And our research administrative overheads.
Okay, for instance, talking about foreign education, we've mentioned that Nigerians spent like $38.17 million on foreign education between January and March of 2024, not even to December. And this is a trend that's so common. You have Nigerians spending huge sums to get education outside the country, partly due to the issues that you have mentioned. But at the same time, some would say there are better opportunities abroad, and the training is thorough, more than they can have in Nigeria. Do you
so let's bring them that figure. You see, when I read those people in newspaper, I smile a lot because they don't give us, they're not giving us the context. I ask that there's a context we need. Number one, how many of these courses are undergraduate courses that they are going for? How many are postgraduate courses? I personally advocate that your undergraduate courses should be in Nigeria. As much as possible, some level of postgraduate. But at a point in time, everyone who's at a particular level, you need that international exposure. My personal opinion. Because it's not about either your own is good or your own is not good. Americans go to that country to study. So but now let's go back to the huge ones about undergraduate. There are perhaps 3 dimensions of that problem. Number one, the spaces available. So many Nigerian students went to Greece and went to where's the war happening now?
Russia. Yes.
A lot of Nigerian students went to Ukraine to study. But do you know, honestly, talk to anybody who's in the medical profession. They will tell you the education in Ukraine is rubbish. Nigerian students, African students, don't see patients. We train with just dummies. How can you compare that to training?
Excuse me, African students. So the white students are given
No, they are
preferential.
They are country people.
Okay, are given preferential.
Work with their people. But if you are not, you work with what you call mannequins.
They're the same class.
In the same class.
So because the mannequins are almost human-like, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
And that's why when they come back, when you look at the news, when they come back, they are supposed to take an exam. The pass rate is never hardly ever up to a third. When this war started, they brought
them back.
When they came back,
reintegrate them into the education system and all of that.
So in Unimed, what we did was very simple. If you are coming to year 2, that's fine. If you are coming to year 3 or higher, we will sit down with our own students, do exactly the exam that they will do to the next class. That's what we expect plays you. I can tell you, we don't have up to 15%, 10% that pass those exams. Because some of them were like, what? You never saw this before. Because you are not exposed to this in the laboratory. So, but Nigerians crave for them. One, because they want their child to be a doctor. And the spaces here are limited. But I've always argued that, look, we need to find a way to open up spaces without compromising standard. It's a balance. And the good thing that this government has done is that it has tried to open up that up a little bit more. When we started, and to be fair to the councils, they are simply rigorous because they need to be rigorous. When we started 5 years ago, we were only approved to train 50 doctors. But now we have been approved to train 200 doctors. Because they will come back, they will examine what we have and say, do you have the capacity to train this number of people? So those kind of things, we need them, but we need to also ask the balance. Instead of wasting so much money going to train, can we expand a little bit more? Take a lot more money. Number 2, Nigerians like anything foreign. No matter the quality. Nigerian both, my child is schooling in Ukraine. When they tell me, I smile. So that's part of the problem, mentality. But the third dimension is this. There's also at a level where we need to do those exposure. We also need to get more people there so that they can come back home, or if they don't come back home, we can also liaise with them to sell them. For me, when Nigerians travel abroad and this Japan syndrome, it's not all a loss. It's just about managing the process.
But it's not about the loss, but managing the process. But managing the process could be an Herculean task. For instance, most universities, even teaching hospitals now, complain that the staff strength is highly depleted due to the Jaguar syndrome. Because in fact, it's like the medical world. You know, some medical bodies now place the graduating students on some kind of you are not going to be traveling. You know, you have to, for instance, the nurses, they tell them you have to serve.
Excellent policy.
Excellent
policy.
But that is against human rights.
No, okay. Let me come back and talk about. I'll talk about this in different form. Look, it's about managing the process. I'm a university lecturer. I'm a university administrator. Our university lecturers go from time to time for training. You sign a bond. When you are going for training from university, you sign a bond. Because you're on my salary and you're leaving. No, you sign a bond. And that's what I believe in. If you are being trained in the federal university, there are no tuition fees, by the way. If you are being trained, the government should give you a bond to say, when I finish training, I will work for you for this number of years. And give an option to buy out. So you can say, for this, you do like 3 years. If you don't want to, you buy yourself out, this is the amount. Give that policy. You are not saying don't go. You are simply saying, for this number of years, for the opportunity we give you and the funding. Because Nigeria taxpayers' money. And you used to go to school. For that, you need to serve Nigeria for this year. Excellent policy.
But will you blame them? For instance, we saw these clips of some Nigerian doctors when they went to, I think it was Saudi Arabia. You know, they were like, what? We have been wasting. We wasted the years we spent working in Nigeria. See the working conditions. See how much you are paid.
I need to tell them that. I tell them it's because you had this opportunity Nigeria gave you. Many of us will never. I would probably not have gone to medical school if my parents had to pay. So now that I had the opportunity, I now feel, because of, no, I think it's a wrong mentality. So
but I do think the government should do better too.
So that's why I said management. Part of the management in employing them and how much we pay. How do we manage them in terms of the facility we provide? We can't compare Nigerian facility to America. It will not happen. But what is necessary? What Nigeria needs? Most healthcare practitioners, most people in Nigeria, they don't need all these high-falutin things, malaria, diarrhea. Things that can be. So all this high-falutin is only for a small proportion of the. How many people have cancer in the population? I'm not saying they are not needed. I'm saying that if you really think about what we need to improve the health of Nigerians, it's not as high-falutin as you are putting. Of course, people will all have their tax money. You should serve the taxpayers for some years. And we'll be paying you. All of us that are around, it's not as if we don't have opportunities.
You've actually gone before, like you said.
but see, if everybody decides the system, like I tell my students, you stay in America, you are treating your other people. Your mother has a problem at home, you're there for only benefit. Even your offer.
But Prof, on a wider scale, a lot of conversation around this issue is about, we creating that system that truly works, creating that system that allows everybody to be whatever they want to be able to exhibit, be able to compare to their peers anywhere in the world, outside the country, will reach out to you as you say. How do we create that system that will eventually ensure that some of them get to come back?
This system, this issue, if you put it on a global scale, the reason why this problem exists is this. The health workers being trained outside the country, in Europe and America, they are becoming fewer for their population because of the cost. The whole of this argument we are arguing is because they have a shortage. And because they have a shortage, they are tapping into developing countries that are investing in training their own. That's what, it's not economic. Many years ago, they won't give you visa. Suddenly they wake up and say, come. It's not because they're interested in us. That's the truth. It's because WHO told us that we're going to be about 10 million shortages of health workers. So they are looking for cheap labor where they can get it. So I'll come back to your question, but that's the global picture. And I tell people, as far as the deficit is there in America, they will always come back to us. Now, how do we create this system? You know, I always believe that this system is going through a lot of challenges, but this system is not that broken that it's not feasible. And I think part of what we need to do is to start small and being practical. What are the core elements that need to be fixed? Not the highfalutin one. How do we improve, for example, basic infrastructure? How does government invest consistently in infrastructure? There were things that were happening in this state years back that were great. Probably not happening today. That's probably also true in other states. So I tell people, you don't need to get the solution in one day, but just be there, be improving consistently. And like I said at the beginning, don't have policy somersault. Let one government build another one. Support the. You find that in 5 years, in 10 years, things will change drastically.
All right, Professor Fatosi, the conversation around Citadel of Learning being the hub for research, for innovation, to also make society better, to ensure that we have a smoother process in the way we do things, or the way things are done. In that regard, area of research, how far has UNIMED gone in trying to break new grounds, try to set the pace, and perhaps what other institutions too must start looking at?
Yeah. So thank you. Research takes a lot of funding. I think I need to also
well established.
But that said, there's a lot of work going on in Nigerian universities. Part of the problem is actually transiting from the laboratories of science research to the level of development at population level. That's just a broad way to put it. Now, one of the things I was talking about funding the other time, and I said part of it comes from our research administration. In the last 5 years, our research income in UNIMED had gone about 6 times what it was in the 5 years preceding that. Today, we have funding from people like Ford Foundation. Ford Foundation, I can see that open. It's supporting a project that is $300,000 cost per to just work around young people's issue in Nigeria. And that project, one of the things we emphasize in UNIMED is also that we are also looking at research that speaks to the context of the Nigerian people and their needs. So we have those kind of projects, very projects funded by National Institute of Health in the US that look at brain development issue and children with autism, for example. That's a major area that one of our work is going on. We have work around molecular of children. Why is it happening? We have molecular biology study. Look at the genetic makeups that might account for those. So for us, it's not just the research. Recently, there was a problem in Afin, Akoko or somewhere where they said there was pest investigation.
Okay, yes, I think it's Afin.
Yeah. We need maybe with our own money set up our research team to go there and investigate. Because for us, we feel very strongly that part of our reason for being here is to help the Nigerian people in Ondo State particularly address their problem. And research is a big part of it. The other thing we are doing, by the way, it's not just the research we do, is that we also challenge younger people to begin to think research-wise. It will give schools in Ondo, we give them seed money. We announce a theme for the year. So the theme for this year is food safety and sustainable agricultural issues. And we give schools money to go and try out ideas. And then we'll bring them together at the end of the period.
Schools, what level of?
Secondary schools. Okay. I will bring them together and say, so you develop a concept paper, we tell you how much we give you. And then one day we put all of you there and bring people to come and look at it. The first school gets 150,000 naira, second school gets 100,000. We did that for 4 years. If you come around, you'll be amazed at how secondary schools today. The first prize this year came from, I won't mention the name of the school, so I don't want to do advertisement. You know, they developed something about, they are keeping tomato, as of that time, they've kept tomato for like 3 weeks. That's not rotten. And what they do was just with their science. We decided there are 3 jars. There's one place that is charcoal that will absorb this, there's this. And I'm like, this is also part of what I believe university must do. It's not only about the research we do, but also catalyze research mindedness even among young people. The second prize winner went back to use, you know, this, what do you call it, this ikoko that we use at home.
The clay pot.
The clay pot. And if they put one clay pot and another, and they put water and there's mixed and there's temperature and they are preserving food. I'm like, wow. So for us, we are doing our research, but more importantly, we are also engineering a mindset in our research.
Engineering mindsets in young people, that is key and profound, because there's need to synergize more between the town and the gown, and I think that's what exactly your institution is doing. At the recently held convocation in your school, you know, so that's probably going to be the last you're going to be having with the institutions. What do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for?
Yes, as the VC.
Like I tell people, maybe that question is more for them than for me. But one of the things I think our administration will be remembered for is a point I made again. That's about innovation. To see that you can be young, but you can be dynamic. You can be resource limited, but you can achieve goals. So one of the things we have made clear that is tell everybody that come and raise this. Resources is not the limitation. The thinking, the mindedness of innovation is perhaps the greatest limitation. And that's why we could go from a school that had one medical rehabilitation course to become the one that had the largest number in West Africa today. There's no school that has more than 2 medical rehabilitation courses. We are the only one that has 5. First faculty of medical rehabilitation. We are the only one that have the master's in a former commissioner for health, for women affairs was in that course. The former dean of his another school was in that course. We are the only one that run that course in Nigeria. Now we are scaled up to PhD. We are in medical university, we have faculty of health, law, and humanities. The only one in sub-Saharan Africa. When the British Council announced 2 years ago a fund for African universities on innovation, they were surprised that we were one of the 6 winners. But they asked us, "You are a medical university, how did you come to compete for this?" We not only competed in Nigeria and became one of the 6, they sponsored 24 in Africa. By the time they brought it to Ghana 2 years after, became first among all universities. So for me, one of the things I want to be remembered for is that the height that you get to is about the mindset. And secondly, one of our philosophy in these 5 years is excellence or nothing. If you are not going to do it well, we are not going to do it at all. So everything we go in is with the mindset that is about excellence. And number 3, it's all about impact.
Professor Fatusi, as you speak, I was also thinking about the burden of leadership. Because in the journey of these 5 years, just like you mentioned earlier, when the conversation around payment for school fees came, there were a lot of kickbacks, a lot of back and forth, a lot of criticism as to, will this fly, should this fly, when will this fly, how should it even fly? And fast forward to other management issues that you've also witnessed under your leadership in UNIMED, having to cope with all of that, with also breaking grounds in innovation and research. How well do you think, or perhaps what was the factor that ensured you navigated well in these instances when the question of leadership arises? And again, we talk about excellence or nothing. A lot of persons say, okay, fine, the leader is aiming for that excellence. How does he also galvanize those who are coming, those who are the team, those who are the staff? It's also key into this vision. Perhaps you answer that with question.
One factor, if you get one first, the first thing you see is what I call the G factor. And G stands for God. I'm not specializing, but I also believe that beyond our natural ability and our limitation, there is divine. For me, I recognize that for most of the things you've done, you have divine. So let me start and put that there. But let's talk about the human thing. One of the things I've found about leadership is this. When people see you living true to your word, when they see that what you say and what you do matches, people tend to go with you. We came to school, we used to be trust people. When I became vice chancellor, we didn't even have a vehicle. And they said, go and take a loan. It's not nice, go and take a loan and buy a vehicle. People have not collected salary for 5 months. Buying a car for the vice chancellor is not the first agenda. I didn't buy a car for myself until all my principal officers got a vehicle. And people look at you, people see what you do. As when you say, guys, let's struggle together, they understand you mean let's struggle together. When you say you can innovate, and people see, I'll give you this story, for example. We did our last convocation on our main side, the army main side. That side was given to us only in the last quarter of 2022. I told people that in 2 years' time, we'll be on that side. We will open it up. We will do our convocation there. People are like, yeah, it goes again. But we did it there. People are like, and you see, most people have seen that there's a pattern to it. When you set a dream, you go after it and you work. People will believe you next time, and they will need to sacrifice. One factor that worked for us, there are a lot of incredible people in the village. A lot of incredible staff who believed in the dream, who joined hands with us and made it happen. It's not about me. I just played my own little part. There are many of them who are part of this great story and success story.
Great. Well, it's all about teamwork, you say, and the God factor. We'll be taking on the show for this morning.